Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa, and this, guys, is going to be one hell of a video. This is the detailed history of Overwatch. This is where the games come from. This is going to include tons of concept art for the game. It's going to include tons and tons of concept gameplay. This is going to include Daddy Jeff giving us loads of information on just where the game has come from, and like it is literally insane. So this is going to be the condensed story of the history of Overwatch. So I should probably get into this because this is going to be quite a detailed video. Now, at BlizzCon, they put on a panel which was the Overwatch archives. I suggest you go and check this out if you've got the Overwatch virtual ticket or even the BlizzCon virtual ticket. It's over an hour long. This is a crazy panel with loads of information. So let's get stuck into this. This thing, what you're looking at right here, it looks like McCree, doesn't it? But this actually was the game they were working on when they cancelled production on Titan. Now remember, Titan was the game before Overwatch. This is what the devs were working on. They decided it wasn't going to work, so then they started to work on a new game. They wanted to work on a StarCraft game, so they designed this. This is obviously McCree, but it wasn't McCree at this time. Then they came to the idea that they wanted to work on a game that looks like this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Crossworlds. Now, this is a name I've not heard before, and the idea behind this was it was a new IP. So IP is an intellectual property. This is going to be like a brand new idea from Blizzard. It's not going to be World of Warcraft, well, Warcraft or Diablo or anything like that. It's going to be totally new. Now, the idea for this was it was a really remote outpost planet in the universe. It was kind of like the crossroads of the universe. This is why it was called Crossworlds, where loads of alien cultures go and mix. It's a brand new world. So what they decided to do was create a new MMO, a new sci-fi kind of MMO in space, and this was the setting for it. And this was some of the very early sort of idea, kind of concept art for that planet. Now, Jeff Goodman, who is the principal designer on Overwatch, or principal hero designer, he actually said this quote. He said, "I wish we were doing a game with, that didn't have 6 or 9 classes, but actually had 50 classes, and each one was wildly different from the other." And that's where they started to get this idea of Overwatch from. Then we move forward and we see this. This is the very, very early Overwatch hero concept deck. This is basically an idea for what is essentially 10 different classes. So you've got Jumper, Reaper, Juggernaut, Phoenix, Architect, Assassin, Guardian, Longshot, Spec Ops, and Mechanic. Now, this is the very, very basic idea. Now, what happened actually at this phase of the game's development was really, really interesting. So, basically, the original sort of hero pitch, which included Jumper and all that stuff, this was Tracer, and eventually she came from the group known as Overwatch, which eventually turned into, well, the game that we're playing today, as they decided to build a new game all around that. But this is them deciding, actually, maybe we can make a shooter game instead of an MMO, or at least throwing that idea around. So what happened was they decided to dump Overwatch and move on to Crossworlds, not Overwatch, and move on to Overwatch. And apparently it took them all of 30 minutes to come to this conclusion. Chris Metzen, who is a legend at Blizzard, who very sadly retired from the company last year, hopefully he comes back. And in fact, he was walking around BlizzCon, but he had a disguise on, which I think is absolutely genius, but whatever. He said, "Look, guys, let's not work on Crossworlds anymore. Let's work on this Overwatch game. I think this has got legs, and I think this is where we should go." So what they said is, go back to your desk and everybody work on a hero. See what you can come up with. And this is what they came up with. Now, you guys have seen this on my channel a couple of days ago. In fact, I took a picture of this as I seen it pop up on one of the monitors around BlizzCon and tweeted it out. And that tweet got millions of views, so people were super interested in this. This is the polished sort of deck of heroes that they came up with. The devs all went away and just decided to come up with heroes. And apparently they came up with over 48 heroes, which is totally ridiculous. Then they were sort of polished up and put together onto this sort of deck. Now, all of the heroes you're seeing here, with the exception of Winston is the only hero that was designed for Overwatch, are heroes, or they are artwork from the game known as Titan. Now, I'm sure in the future we'll learn more about Titan, but at this moment in time, the only new hero designed specifically for Overwatch is Winston. All of this other stuff comes from Titan. So when you look at this, Reaper comes from Titan, Symmetra comes from Titan, Torbjorn comes from Titan, Mercy comes from Titan, Tracer is in the bottom right of this image, if you get the kind of like the bigger version of it. That is crazy. That is utterly crazy. So Jeremy Craig came up with this deck, and this is what they were going to use to show to the higher-ups at Blizzard and Activision to say, "Hey guys, this is what we're going to make as a game. Will you give us money to make this game," basically? We then get this. These are sort of like the original environmental design stuff for Overwatch. Now, you'll notice with this, and Jeff does point this out on the panel, all of this stuff it's not very Overwatchy, is it? This doesn't look like Overwatch art. That is because these are all environments that were designed for Titan. And you can see what they've done here. You can see what they've converted for Overwatch. So Cairo is obviously Temple of Anubis. London is King's Row. Kyoto Temple is Hanamura. Berlin, probably nothing. Iron Star, that's not nothing. The Iris, that's Nepal. You know, passing to the Iris, I think that's what that is. India, we don't have that. Galapagos, we don't have that. Numbani, well, that's Numbani. And all these other maps, like, they're not actually in the game yet, but this was sort of the basis which they were basing their environmental design on, and all of this came from Titan. So this is Prometheus. Now, this is what they came up with to actually show the guys at Activision. Now, at this point, Mike Morhaime and all the big guys from Blizzard were loving this idea. They're like, yeah, we've got to make this game. But because Blizzard is part of, well, it's not part of Activision. Blizzard and Activision are a joint company. They can't just go ahead with like major game development without consulting the other side of the company. So they had to go to Activision. They had to go to Bobby Kotick and all of those guys and basically say, hey, can we make this game? And this is what they showed them. This was Prometheus, which was the code name for Overwatch. And Jeff actually says the reason why we give code names to games is because devs get drunk at BlizzCon and they might just sort of spill the name of the game. And believe you me, guys, take it from me, devs do get drunk at BlizzCon. Anyway, this is what they showed them. And the thing, what was super interesting with this is, they were going into Activision and they were saying, hello, you guys make Call of Duty, like the most popular shooter there is, really, in terms of game sales and stuff. We're going to make a shooter, but we're from Blizzard, and we're the guys that failed to make Titan, which wasted you a load of money. So allow us to make a shooter. And Jeff, as he explains, he's going through the slides, and he's like, yeah, you know, check this out and all this good stuff. And then Bobby stands up and says, stop the presentation. And Jeff's thinking, oh, God, he's just going to tell me to get out. This is the worst thing ever. But he tells him to go back a few slides and actually brings him to this slide where it shows him the characters. And Bobby says, I've never seen any like characters that look like this before. This is amazing. Like, this is going to be an amazing universe. We need to make this game. So they kind of get the green light, but not really the green light. What they get given is this. So this is the timeline, and they're given the idea to get the game to a green light stage. Well, they're given the permission, right? So what they can do now is start investing time. So you'll notice here on this timeline, there is a thing called tech reboot. This is because they've got to redesign all of the tech that they used for Titan and make it, you know, work for Overwatch, because Overwatch is a completely different game. So what they did is they deleted over 3 million lines of code from Titan, and only 700,000 lines of code remains, and loads of technical challenges. Like, all of the art from Overwatch was made from scratch. You know, they had to develop the engine. It's just completely like a massive load of work. So we can see here the various things that they had to do for the tech reboot, which, you know, this is like super interesting to me. It's crazy. So what I'm going to show you now is Jeff and Arnold Sang, and Arnold Sang is the sort of like the head hero, not hero designer, but he designs all of the visual assets. Like, he pretty much designed all of the heroes in the game from a visual point of view. Doesn't design their abilities as such, he designs the heroes. If you pick up the Overwatch Collector's Edition art book, or even just the normal art book, you'll notice literally all of the heroes designed by him, and he is such, like, well, he's basically a genius. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to leave this over to Jeff.
Okay, so this is the first time we rendered anything in the engine. Again, it was a proprietary engine made from scratch. This is Tracer in October 2013, her little Mickey Mouse hands. We were unable to put guns in her hands, so she had to shoot laser beams out of her eyes to simulate shooting. We had no visual effects. We were playing around with environmental lighting, as you can see. This is the very first playtest of Overwatch, ran by our assistant game director, Aaron Keller. The point of this playtest was to make sure that the scale, FOV, camera height was correct. All we had was Tracer. You can see that Widowmaker-looking Tracer over there, which is just Tracer with a Widowmaker skin. This is our physics programmer, Aaron Cotto, was getting the Blizzard physics engine working within the Overwatch engine for the first time. So you can have things like the crates and vases on Temple of Anubis breaking and moving. And you saw Recall for the first time. Tracer doesn't have any visual effects on her guns. And then there's little nuanced things that you don't think about having to work on, but like when you walk up and down stairs, how much does the camera bump or smooth through? So all very early footage of what was going on in the tech reboot.
So they managed to get the tech reboot sorted out, and now they can sort of pitch the game better. Now they've got to get core combat sorted out. Now this is actually making Overwatch, well, Overwatch, because it's all very well and good having a game, having an engine, having art assets, or like minimal, you know, art assets and all of that stuff. But if it doesn't actually function as a game, then what's the point? So what they had to do is get this ready and then pitch this, or rather show the rest of Blizzard what they've made, just to see if it's actually fun. Because it's all very well and good having an idea, but if you can't convert that into a game, then there's literally no point. So I'll leave this over to Jeff and Arnold again to explain and show you in a shed load of detail what core combat actually was.
All right, so you can see early Temple of Anubis. Tracer doesn't have all our textures, but we're getting things like recall in there.
Yeah, the Reaper's T-pose all over. We use the Reaper for scale sometimes. Early on, we're still figuring out how to scale our buildings properly. Sometimes we forget to delete the Reaper.
Yeah, so you just have Reapers all over. This is literally the first play test ever with Farah in it. The first day she was in, you can see how slow her rockets are shooting.
You barely see it without the trail view.
There's no visual effects there.
Here's an early animation prototype for Tracer. We're still getting the hang of getting the third person. Her head is just bobbing wildly, which made headshots really hard. So we took a lot of iterations to get just the right amount of movement.
All right, so we're moving along, and this is interesting because we came back in January of 2014, and now the game was starting to be fun. I mean, granted, it was only Tracer versus Tracer, so all you No Limits fans would have loved it back then, and Tracer mains. But the game was actually fun, and you can kind of see Temple of Anubis is really taking shape now in terms of level design. We play the levels just blocked out in gray blocks like that. And then we were really proud. This is just 24 days later. You can see the progress that was made. And the whole time here, the UI is evolving. The game mode is starting to work. Like, we actually have capture points that you can stand on. And more and more is coming together. Early health pack, as silly as that looked. You can see the Temple of Anubis was open. Now, here's Reapers in the game. Now, you're going to see the world's coolest Death Blossom animation is coming up right here.
Greatest animation.
Wait for it. There it is. And this is what the game looks like to us when we're making it.
His muzzle flashers are these giant
Farah's
balls.
rocket launcher is making some progress, but it's going to look different. We decided she's blue now. Like, I remember that whole meeting at your desk for what color Farah should be. We're getting Widowmaker's grappling hook working. And then we're learning things like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be able to get up there in Temple of Anubis. Maybe that's not such a good place for Widowmaker. This is also, I'm sorry to admit, this is some of the worst sniping you're ever going to see, and this was me. And like somebody said, like, oh, at least you finished him off. I'm like, I didn't finish him off. Somebody else finished him off. I didn't even hit him. And then by February, we're like now getting really close to our March milestone.
Yeah, the lighting is starting to come in here with all the stuff we were doing with the new engine, and it's just started looking so beautiful. Temple of Anubis started to come to life.
And like the UI is evolving now. You can see we're getting like a character portrait there, an ultimate. Widowmaker's ultimate used to just put little marks above everybody's head because we couldn't yet render the silhouettes through the walls. That would come later. So that was core combat.
Okay, so at this moment in time, a guy called Ray Gresco. Now, you guys probably don't know who he is, but he's basically the boss of Overwatch. Most people think it's Jeff. It's not. Ray Gresco is the big daddy boss of Overwatch at the end of the day, but he kind of, like, he's not out there in the public and all that stuff. Anyway, Ray said that they're going to announce Overwatch at 2014 BlizzCon. And that is literally a year after when Titan was cancelled. So this is like a team which is going from zero to hero, or at least that's what they're trying to do. Obviously, this is a lot of pressure. So what we can see here in this video is early Hanzo concept and design of Hanzo. Now, again, I suggest you go and watch the entire panel if you want to see all of this stuff in detail, instead of like just getting this sort of abbreviated version which I put together. But you can see the way that Hanzo is being designed. You can see the way they're designing his Dragon Strike Ultimate and all of that good stuff. It's like, it's totally ridiculous. Like, it's crazy to even see this kind of footage just anyway. Like, it's awesome to see this level of like the history of Overwatch. This is literally the history of the game, and it is so cool to see this. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Now we've got some kind of crazy hero designs because they knew the heroes that they had, like, at the moment. Like, in the game at that point, so Widowmaker, Tracer, Reinhardt was being developed, Pharah was being developed. But beyond that, there's like, what are we doing? What are the next heroes? So they're trying to come up with, like, crazy hero ideas. This is a monkey jetpack style hero because they were trying to push the boundary. Like, they've got Winston, who's like a genetically modified ape from the moon. But how far could you go? It looks like they've actually decided to say, actually, Winston probably is the furthest we're going to go. So I don't think we're ever going to see, like, a crazy jetpack chimp or something like that. I mean, hell, maybe Hammond and all of that teaser stuff for Hammond on the moon is just kind of like the remnants of this hero, and the devs just wanted to kind of throw that out there. We don't really know. But this, yeah, I don't think they'll ever go that far. We've also got this. This is Jetpack Cat, and everybody knows about Jetpack Cat. Like, when Jeff spoke about this, it was pretty funny. Like, a ridiculous hero, which is a cat which flies around with a jetpack. And yeah, I don't think this will ever be a hero in the game. There might be some references to this, maybe in maps or maybe future kind of releases for Overwatch, but I don't think we're going to get to see a Jetpack Cat. Now, this is the claw trap. This is when they were deciding to see how far they could go with abilities. Now, this is Torbjorn. Torbjorn didn't used to have an armor pack. What Torbjorn had was the claw trap. And instead of me explaining this, I'm going to have Jeff and Arnold show you this because it was quite frustrating.
Okay, so let's take a look at the claw trap video now. All right, so step 1, throw it out. Step 2, deploy. Step 3, all terror breaks loose. Because of course Torb's going to throw it in front of Strix. And here's early animations on Torbjorn. Like, it looks pretty ghetto. And then Torb trying to find just that perfect spot. Temple of Anubis choke in the early days. And now watch what happens as our heroes come through. Oh, there's Reinhardt throwing his hammer. Ryan didn't make it. Maybe Tracer can make it through. Nope. She's not getting through. Maybe Widowmaker. She's clawed and she's done. So you just put the claw in front. Watch. Now Reinhardt can think, maybe charge will get me past the claw trap. No. Oh, poor Reinhardt. I like he's just like deer in a headlights. He doesn't even try to swing or anything.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move into what is a load of footage. Like, this is tons of footage here. This is early concept stuff that was trying to be worked on just before BlizzCon 2014 because they wanted to show the game at BlizzCon in a very limited capacity, and that's them trying to get the game to this state. So you'll see things here which are really funky. Like, you'll see King's Row. I mean, look at this. This kind of does look like King's Row, doesn't it, in a way? It doesn't look that different to what we actually got. I mean, that buzz there is not there, is it? It's moved over to the left-hand side. It's actually smaller as well. You've got like a crazy-looking Bastion there, which is just like all over the place. So what is going on? But that targeting thing around Bastion is quite interesting because that must have been a remnant maybe from like Titan or something, although at this point we know they've redesigned the engine, because why would you have a selector around him? It's almost like you've selected him. This again just looks, I think this is Hanamura. Yeah, this is early Hanamura, which is really small and all of that good stuff. But yeah, there is tons and tons of this footage. I'm not going to show it you guys because I kind of don't want to spoil all this footage, but if you go and watch the archives panel on the Blizzard virtual ticket or the BlizzCon virtual ticket, you'll get to watch this entire panel, and there are other panels on there which are damn good. I mean, it is worth the price of admission just for the Overwatch stuff, and you have all of the other games there as well, which is absolutely crazy. And finally, I want to end the video on this. This is the team from BlizzCon 2014. This is just after they announced the game to the world, and this is everybody getting together, and it's really cool, this picture is, because you know, I would never have known any of these guys before, but I look at the picture now and there are I've met so many of these guys. It's crazy. Like, it's just totally ridiculous to me. You know, and when I look back at this, I'm just like, what these guys did in 2013 to 2014, it changed my life. Like, it sounds really cheesy, but it did change my life. Like, I never expected to be able to play a game again, which would be so like all-consuming or would be the best game I've ever played. I thought at the stage I was at in my life, I'd gone past that. I thought, yeah, this is never going to happen again. Like, you know, maybe I'm getting too old or whatever, but it didn't. And it's crazy. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. That was the sort of a brief version of the history of Overwatch. This is a magnificent game, and I just can't wait to see where this game goes in 2 or 3 years' time. And we've got all the Overwatch League stuff, we've got the new heroes, the new maps, and all of that stuff coming out. It's just insane. Guys, I've been Stylosa, and this is Unit Lost. If you enjoyed the video, then like the video. You can subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and I will catch you on the next one, guys. Toodaloo.